Plastic Model Builders. Hello, I am your host Ari Stone with Plastic Model Builder, and we are going to build a Revell F4U-4 core. Yes, that's right, a moving propeller. And we are going to put a nice, lovely tropical beach diorama with this, with some lovely blue water. This plane will be dropping its bombs. This plane, or I should say this model, is very old. It's an old kit. This is the 2017 version though, but remember the molds are old. So we are putting in the wheels here, and you can see this is what the wheel wells look like. Not pretty. We're going to leave them like that. I'm doing the kit for what it is, not for what I could make it if I really tried. I painted all these parts silver just to give it like a silver backing base. Then I'm going over and painting everything black. That way, you know, I felt like doing something different. You're not even really going to see this in the model because the canopy is on. My original intent was to do this with a canopy open, but it didn't pan out that way because I was going to have to do some sort of fabrication, and I really didn't feel like fabricating anything. So I didn't do too much model making madness. I did try to make it look pretty though, so that's a plus. We're just doing various shades of black here, trying to make the instrument panel look fairly decent. I even go as far as to put little specks of glue in there. That way I can make it look like real glass. Can't even see it. All that time for nothing, so to speak. But hey, I have experience doing that. Anyway, this is going to be a fun video. Make sure you watch everything. Make sure you subscribe, comment, and like. As always, remember we do a live chat on every premiere that we do. I'm also taking donations of money. If you want to give me that, I will gladly take it. We also weather this plane, so if you stick around, I'm going to show you that. We do a bomb and a missile being dropped into some water. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to show you how I do it. Do all sorts of good stuff with this model. We have our pilot here. Paint him, weather him, try to make him look as real as possible. Trying to improve my skill. That's what it's all about. Not graying the suit, darkening it up a little bit. Using my tan color for my pilot right here. Giving that little tan all around. He looks good. Have his helmet that we have to do. Gets two coats, a dark and then a lighter coat, just to kind of make it look like leather. Hit the headset, get that good. Got his goggles, make those look pretty as well for some model making madness. And of course, his straps for his parachute in case he has to bail out. So as I said, this model is going to feature a bomb drop, as in the mission was finished. Didn't want to return back to the carrier with armament, so he drops it in the sea, and that's what we're going to do. So here's a pilot, fits nicely. Putting the wings together for this Corsair goes together fairly well. Of course, it is a Revell kit, so if you're looking for something without seams, the Revell kit does not have that. So you will have to work on this as best you can. I do work on the seams on this plane later on in this video, and you will see that. I also paint it. I weather it, I put on a gloss coat, I put the decals on, so you're going to see all that, and then you're going to see the diorama getting built. Here is me attaching the wings. I glue these together the best way I knew how with the thin cement. It works, gets the job done, and we'll even show you how I put that propeller together. I have a little motor that I ordered online, did some fabrication work. The motor does stick out a little bit, not the motor I should say, but the prop sticks out a little further than I wanted to. It's my first one, so you'll have to cut me some slack. This is a bomb that we're making right here. Put everything together, put that onto the bomb, glues in place. Very simple stuff. So far everything's going along nicely. I do have a front antenna there that winds up getting pushed in, and I wind up taking it off anyway because I could never really find that antenna on many Corsairs, for at least the version that I did. I didn't see it on there, so it's gone. So this is a wood dowel I have. I'm hollowing it out to put on top of this motor like this. Make sure you don't get the glue too far in there. Look at that, it spins and it works. I have to cut it because I need to fabricate it to make sure I could fit in the rod for the propeller. Break that off a little bit, put a hole into this. Very simple using the pin vise that I have. It goes very nicely. Put the super glue in. Otherwise, if you don't do that, it's going to spin too much. I even think I put a little bit of oil inside of that prop. That way it spins freely when you turn this on. So here we go with some soldering. Easy to do. Make sure you tin your soldering gun. Put these black wires in. Just solder it in place. I'm creating a base so I have something for the motor to go onto. I'm going to thread my wires through there. Got two of those, a black and a red. Slowly pull those through as the motor comes along. I painted these chrome green because that's what the insides usually look like back then. Even though you're really not going to see it, it sits on the back of the plane. Back of the plane was rough, but you don't really see that unless you try to look for it. And that was not the goal, was for me not to have to look for stuff, but to see the big picture of the plane overall. And it looks really great when it's done. I'm not too concerned about the paint job here, as this goes inside of the aircraft, and it's just kind of mainly if you could see in. Even the same thing with the tail. Not overly concerned, but I did paint it. This is what it looks like. We are going to close this up by putting the fuselage on. We'll hold that together, glue the top seam and all around that. Then we have right here where the prop's going to go. Close that up, it's the cowling. And there you go. See, everything works out there. It looks good, but by the time that's done, that prop sits out a little farther than I wanted to. And that's okay. So here we've got another hole that I drilled into the bottom there. Make sure the cowling's on, make sure the wings are on good. Slide this down into there. That's the rear tail fin. Put your glue on. Put these on right here, your little air ducts, I believe they are. Somebody will tell me what they are. They always do, and I always thank them for it because I'm not researching this. Painting this right here. That is the front of the aircraft, as you can see, and I'm just going over this. Now we are painting the aircraft, the sea blue. It does look a little black, I know that. It's okay, it turns out fine for me. Looks great in the final product. Got our little tank right here. It goes in the center of the plane. Just have to be careful with it and put on a couple of coats of this. I did a light coat, then I'm doing a little bit heavier coat as I go along. And this is the final bit of that. Made it look a little weathery. This is spraying on the gloss coat for the decals. I like how it looks. Just one little coat. Put these decals on. I'll show you a couple of those. Got the number 24 right there. The Marine logo. Not too many more. I'm not going to show you all of them. Just some specialties. How many shots in that right there. Paint this. Goes in lovely green color. We've got the missiles that are white, and then I painted the tail end white and this white because it's going to lay as a base coat for my favorite color, red. Not really, but we all know you need something good so that red shows through nice and pretty. Black won't work. White looks great, as you can see. Same thing I did with the tips right there, putting our yellow on, and then you go through and I paint that prop black. Looks wonderful by the time it is done. Tips of the bombs also go yellow. It was an acrylic, but it kind of acted like an enamel, as you could see right there. That's okay. Paint these aluminum. Those bombs are ready. It's just one that I'm doing. And then the tips of your rockets, I wouldn't even call them missiles. Those are just kind of rockets. Painted black, and that's what the prop looks like. We will decal that later. So here's the plane. One more sealer coat for weathering. That way we can put some other stuff onto this aircraft. Like this. Exhaust weathering. Find those little areas right there and you'll see this is kind of what it looks like on the real plane after it's flown for a while. Got a light coat right here followed by a darker coat that we're going to put on. Goes all along the inside of that, and then a dab of orangish red. Looks kind of rusty. That's the color. Put on this tank, goes right there in the center. Got our hole that we're drilling. That way we know where they go. This is going to hold the aircraft to the base. So I've got 2 pieces of wood that I got at the hobby store. I am laying out the base for this and how I want it to go. This is where the holes for everything will fit into for the aircraft, and then for the guide wires for the motor prop. So I put on these brackets to hold it together, sliced everything down with the screws, that way they fit in. Ran a bead of caulk because we were going to run some plaster inside of there, and of course some epoxy resin to make this thing look pretty. Now you see I painted that whole thing a gray color before we paint everything else. I'm laying out where I want my diorama layout to go. These are going to hold on the aircraft. And now I've got myself a foam cutter, making various little patterns right here. These are going to get glued down onto the wooden base. Did a couple of these just to make sure it all looked good. And then this is how it will look when it's done, leveling that out. So we have this right here. We're painting the sky blue. Have our color that's going a darker blue, like if you're looking up into space, because you know it kind of gets that. It's what it looks like, just like that, and just keep working until it looks as good as you want it to look. You can see those nails sticking out. We're not going to worry about those because those are going to get hidden. That's the beauty of all this. We know how to hide stuff very easily. And paint some clouds, make them look pretty, give them a little friend. You know how that is. Got my caulk. This is how I'm going to glue down the land formation. And of course you're kind of looking at this upside down. The rigidy parts that are curved, that is going to be the top. I've got my plaster. This is laying the seabed floor, and of course going on for sand effect and ground effect. Now watch this, just kind of float that in there. Covers the seam very nicely. My plaster is a little thick. I made the last time I did this a little too thin, so I'm learning to make it a little thicker before I even use it. That way it doesn't go too many places. And this is what it looks like when it's nice and thick. I am also using a little pipette there to lay this down in certain areas. It worked out great, and you can just throw it out later. So this is my attempt at making an underwater shark. Make it out of plaster. It came out okay. We're going to paint that, and we're going to show you what it looks like. We're going to let all this dry. This is going to go gray. The underside will be a little bit of white to look kind of like a shark. I do my best. It's not exactly perfect, but you get the point. Give it some eyes, give it some fins, and now we are painting everything else. I start off with a dark color. This is going to be the top of the land, and you will see this through the water that I put in. We are going to do that epoxy resin stuff, so keep watching so you can see that. And this will be, you'll show you the finished product of this. Various colors of paint. You see it's kind of like a greenish color that I'm working with here. And once it's all done, I'm making that look even more a light kind of green underneath that. So this is painting the seafloor. It's a light sand color, tan, hard to tell, I know. By the time it's all said and done, you won't even see those dots right there either. And then I'm just putting a light dust coat on top of this. And the end result looks really, really good, and I know you'll like it. So I've got pieces of styrene cut out right here. I am putting clear packing tape over this. That way, when I put my epoxy resin in, it doesn't stick to it. So make sure you get your sides perfect, and that way the epoxy can't leak out. I learned my lesson the first time I tried that. Make sure everything's sealed and dry too. I didn't make sure my stuff was dry. So this is a little bit of a light blue. It's got some glitter in there. Gives a sparkle. And I mix these cups, pouring this in several layers at a time, letting it dry. You don't want to do too much at once. It could get too hot for the brand that I used. Pours on nicely, just like you see there. Take my missile, my rocket, because it's being dumped. I'm going to stick it in, And as I stick it in, I'm going to put in more of the blue stuff. I did have one little issue where it looks like if you look straight on from this, you can see the layer that built up. It looked a little bit different. That's okay. It's model making madness to make this stuff look pretty. So this here, cotton, I got it from a Q-tip, and we're going to put that on there, and that's going to look almost as if the rocket had just plunged into the water, and that's the effect you get afterwards. I didn't go overboard with the effect. Maybe I could have put ripples and some splashes, but just didn't do it. Wanted to go slow my first time, seeing how well I could do this, and then the bomb, drop that in there. I'm trying to represent where they would be if they were on the actual wings of this aircraft, and how I'm representing this using my stick to hold it up. So that's the good part. And of course, where it makes contact with the water, put a little bit more of like foam coming up. It's a good effort, I will say. I at least tried. So now that everything's dry, break off our cardstock right there. You can see a perfect edge. It's a little rounded. Take our airplane, and you see the lovely sea green blue for this Corsair. Now you can see the motor stuck out a little bit. That's my background right there. Sticking this plane inside of it, get those wires into the hole that I put in there. You can see how I've got that. I have to bend these up. It's interesting how I decided to do this. I held them together with some wire, and once the wire's done, I've got a piece of foam that I just shove in there to keep those from popping out. Works great for me. I've got a plastic tree that I bought. I'm painting it gray because I don't like the brown color at all. I feel the gray is a better representation. Painting the plastic on this a darker green to flatten out that color, and then a lighter green, yellow green, you should say, for the branches of the palm tree, because they can look like that. Put my caulking on there to hold everything in place, and then we will put some PVA glue all around this, and once we do that, we're going to put some sand down. Yes, it's a thick sand. I'm happy with it, and that is all that matters. I was just making a fun diorama to show you that you can do it too if you have any doubts that you can't do this stuff. This is a little switch I have that came with the kits that I got, so make sure you follow the instructions. Tubing goes over this, melt it down, that way it stays put, just like so. Looks good, I like it. The canopy has to go on, we'll glue that. I use some Mr. Hobby glue. It fits in, and then the top canopy. Push that down as best you can. It's a little hard getting it in. And of course the pitot tube. Turn this on. Make sure the prop spins. It's some model making madness. There it is. Here are the stills of this. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, comment, and like. And as always, until next time, see ya.